Smart home hot take? We did not need Thread. And I think it's pretty much Apple's fault that we've ended up with it. And the entire smart home world could have gone in a different direction, which would have been much simpler, albeit a bit fractured. Hi, I'm James, and I've been building out my smart home for years, with products from just about every manufacturer out there, figuring out what works and what doesn't. So before I go any further, you will need to understand two terms, Thread and Matter, because I see a lot of people confuse them. For the sake of this video, I'm going to compare them like languages and communication methods. Like, you can send a message in different languages, like English, French, Spanish, over different communication methods like text or email or carrier pigeon in any combination. So the same is actually true with Matter and Thread. You can send messages using Matter, the language, via different communication protocols like Thread, Wi-Fi, or via Ethernet networks in general. Let's do a quick example. Take a light turning on from a motion sensor. In this example, the motion sensor is Matter talking to Home Assistant over Thread, and the light is Matter talking to Home Assistant over Wi-Fi. The sensor sends a Matter language message via the Thread network, and it gets to the Home Assistant server via a Thread dongle plugged into it. And Home Assistant then sends out a Matter message on the network, and it reaches the light via your Wi-Fi network. The exact same thing could have also happened, but using the HomeKit accessory protocol, another language which Apple Home uses. It's designed to work via a local network, or over Thread, or even Bluetooth. It doesn't matter. Now let's rewind to when the CSA came together, including members such as Google, Apple, Amazon, etc., all the big players, and decided to build a new connection language, Matter. But they had to solve a problem. The smart home world had not settled on a specific communication method yet, mainly because different situations call for different technologies. Not everyone can reasonably wire up their entire home and have every device talk the same language like MQTT over the wire. Equally, we cannot rely on Wi-Fi for everything because in most cases, it sucks. It uses too much power because it's designed to have way more bandwidth than is necessary for smart home devices, and Bluetooth has its own problems too. But by this point in time, the smart home world had already developed other radio communication technologies, namely Zigbee and Z-Wave. But there was a problem. They already had well-defined language intrinsically linked to their radio protocol, and the CSA wanted to be able to talk the Matter language all the way through a given interaction. So regardless of the communication technology, the Matter language would be used for all messages, which basically forced them into using only networking technologies, meaning that Zigbee and Z-Wave were not going to be supported. But none of the network-capable radio technologies are optimized for smart home devices. So they decided to make a new one. And when I say new, I mean an almost copy-paste of Zigbee. Yep, everything about Thread and Zigbee are the same. They use the exact same chunk of 2.4 GHz network spectrum to send messages over longer distances than Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and they mesh those messages via permanently powered nodes to go even further with very low latency and high redundancy. The only real difference is that Zigbee has its own language, whereas Thread uses something closer to traditional Ethernet networking in order to deliver messages of any language to the target device. All Thread devices actually get an IPv6 address, which is why all of your Matter stuff will probably break if you don't have it enabled on your network. This means that when developing Matter, the language could always be the same, regardless of which technology was carrying them. You could even use RFC 1149. Go and look it up if you don't get that one. The trouble now is we essentially end up with this new, subtly different radio communication protocol, which needs to be perfected by every manufacturer. And until it is, things aren't quite going to work perfectly. When it comes to developing a technology like this from scratch, developers are almost always going to do the same thing. Spend the majority of their time making it work well enough, and push the software out so that the product can go to market. And then worry about bug fixes later in an update, which never come. And this is pretty much where we are now. Matter launched a couple of years ago, devices are flooding the market and the majority of them don't quite work right. Or they just choose to use Wi-Fi even though it's inferior, because they can just buy a chip off the shelf, which does all the Wi-Fi stuff out of the box for them. So what could they have done instead? Well, they could have done exactly the same thing. Developed Matter as a networking-only technology, and then Apple could have adopted Zigbee as well. Zigbee was already well established, and it largely just worked, and companies like Amazon were already adopting it, putting Zigbee radios into many of their Alexa devices, and allowing you to just pair Zigbee devices easily and control them with Alexa. Oops, sorry for triggering half of you. See, Zigbee was a standard that Apple could have just adopted, and that would have solved the hub nightmare that we were all in, all on its own. Because people would have quickly realised that you didn't actually have to buy every manufacturer's own hub in order to connect their devices. And the few companies which didn't fully adhere to this spec, I'm looking at you, Aqara, so that you did have to buy one of their hubs, would have quickly had to have changed their ways when people decided not to buy them anymore. And yes, there would have been a slight fracture between Matter and Zigbee, but nowhere near as bad and confusing as it is now. Simply by Apple adopting Zigbee, users could have been sure that if they see a Zigbee logo on a product, they'll be able to use it in whichever ecosystem they like. And you might now be wondering, but what about all the devices not needing a hub at all? Like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi devices which work directly with just your phone? And my response to that would be, that's no different to where we are now. Because Apple Home now forces you to have an Apple Home Hub to use Matter devices, even though that shouldn't actually be necessary for a network device. And not to mention that iPhones now come with Thread built in, so it doesn't even have to be this way for Thread devices either. But here we are. Now, all of this still wouldn't solve the issue that we have now of fractured Matter support whenever they release a new Matter update, while all the major players all rush to support it in software updates. But it would be less of an issue, because Zigbee is so mature now that it hasn't required a significant update for nearly 3 years at this point. So that Zigbee logo would still be a whole lot more reassuring to a prospective buyer than the Matter logo is. So what's your take on all of this? Are you sold on Matter and Thread? Or are you a diehard Zigbee user? Or even a Z-Wave veteran? Let me know down in the comments. And if you found this video helpful in understanding the different smart home technologies, then please be sure to give this video a like and hit that subscribe button for more videos like this one in future. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, home is where the smart is.